Good morning, grade 10s. Today we're going to continue with tables. So this is part 2. So specifically we are going to look at how to format or different types of formatting that can be applied to tables. So that would include merging and splitting cells within a table. It includes the changing of borders, shading, as well as grid lines in a table. And then I will show you the difference between what a grid line is and what a border is. And then lastly, we're going to conclude this video by looking at the sorting and calculation functions that we can apply to our tables. So I'm going to bring up Word with a table, and we are actually going to look at how to merge and split cells first. So there's different ways. I'm going to zoom in. So the first way that we can merge cells is by highlighting the cells that we want to merge. So I can, for example, highlight the first 3. And then I can right click on there, and then I have an option in this box that says merge cells, and the cells are now merged, which means it has become one cell. You can do that with a column as well. Right click, merge cell. The other way that I can do this is by actually, I'm going to highlight these two. On the ribbon, in the layout tab, I can click on merge cells. So after I've highlighted, I can click on merge cells, and it does exactly the same. Now, the opposite of merging is splitting cells. So again, I select the cell that I want to split, and then just because I'm here already in the tab on top, I can click on split cells, and then I can select how many rows and how many columns do I want to split this cell in. So I'm going to split it into 2 columns, and I say OK, and you can see now this cell that was selected is now 2 columns. If I click on it, the other way again is to right click and to actually select split cells. The same dialog box comes up. So in this case, I want to make this into 3 columns. Okay, and you can see that this is back to where it was normally. Okay, so that is merging and splitting cells, and I would like you to do activity 4 that will practice that particular skill. Right, so let's move on to borders, shading, and grid lines. Maybe I'm going to start with grid lines. So I'm going to zoom out for this so that you can see the entire ribbon. So in the design tab of the table tools, so if you click on that, we have a borders group. So I'm going to zoom in here. We have a borders group. Now over there we can manipulate the style, which is this one. So we have a lot of different styles. We can, the thickness of the border over here, and then the color of a particular border. Over here we have also different styles preset. And if I click on borders, you can now manipulate which border you want to change. But over here in the bottom, it says view grid lines or not. Let's take all the borders away. I'm sorry, I have to select the, you can see over here this cell was the active one, so it applied on that, but I'm going to select all of the table, and I'm going to say I don't want any borders. So the table still exists, but there are no borders. However, there are grid lines. The grid lines are invisible lines. So if I would print this, these lines wouldn't be seen. It's just indicating for the user that these are actual cells. There's an actual table in the Word document. If I click on View Grid Lines, which is selected at the moment, you can see that by the icon being grayed out. If I click on there, you can see the table actually still exists, but no grid lines are seen. So if you want to, for example, if I set up a test for you, I actually, to be able to align the questions and the marks and the question numbers in a very neat way, I actually use a table, but that table mustn't be printed. So I select a table, and for me to see where the borders are, I select View Grid Lines, and I can now manipulate this table as I've shown you before. We can move, make cells bigger, smaller, enter our text, and now I can print it. The table won't be visible, but the formatting stays. So those are grid lines. But let me show you quickly. I'm going to change some of the borders. So you can either apply it to every single border by highlighting the entire table and then manipulating it here, or let me show you this. So you can click on borders and click on borders and shading. A dialog box comes up where you can manipulate borders, page borders, as well as shading. So for now, we are only interested in the border one as well as the shading one later on, but I'll show you how that works. So at the moment, there are no borders. We can say box means all the outside borders. So if I click on that, you can see all the outside borders are selected. If I say all, even the inside borders are selected. And then customs, I can now actually select the borders that I want or not want. I can also choose the style of the border. For example, I can choose the outside borders must be these thick borders, but the inside style, I want like a stipple line, but maybe a little bit bigger. So I can select now the inside ones. If I say OK, you can see all the outside border has a special border, and the inside are these stipple lines. Don't confuse these with the grid lines. Okay, I'm going to select that again. Borders, border and shading, and I can manipulate. I don't have to have borders all around. I can deselect, for example, the side ones. Then there will only be a border on the top and the bottom. I can change the color, and then I can also select to which do I want to apply these changes, to the text, to the paragraph, to the cell, or to the table. So obviously I'm manipulating a table, so I'm selecting table. Then in terms of shading, I can highlight this, and then in the design tab in the table styles group, we have shading. So I can select this, and I can select now a color that I shade my table header. So usually I select the shading for my first row so that it stands out, that the headings stand out. I can change the color of my font and make it bold and make it bigger as well. Okay, so those are borders, shading, and grid line. And if you do activity 5, you will practice those things. And then you can do activity 6 as well, which enables you to practice the skill of grid lines and borders. Right, then lastly, I'm quickly going to show you what is meant by sorting and calculation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to delete my table. So you can highlight the table, right click and say delete table, and I'm going to insert a new table. And I'm just going to actually have 2 columns over here. So just to, I'm not going to change any formatting. I'm just going to type in here item. I'm going to say here price, and I've got an item apples, and they are, let's say, 15 Rand, and I've got bananas, and they are 20 Rand, and now I want total price. So I would like to calculate the total price, which is a sum of these. So what I can do is I can select the layout, and then I can add a formula into my table. And over here, it automatic by default says sum above, and I can press OK, and it automatically calculates the sum. I can also calculate the average, for example. Clicking on formula, paste function, average. But you can see now that this is just added in the end, and that's not what we want. So I'm going to take this away. I'm going to highlight this, click average. You can see that it uses brackets as well, so I can delete that. So it's not sum average, equal sign average above, press OK, and you can see there it's 17.5. So the basic structure of the formula is equal sign. We have our function, and then we can say what do we actually want to apply this function to. So in this case, it is above. And then I can have a number format as well. So for example, this is Rand. So I can select the 0.22, and here's some monetary values as well. So I can select that and do this. So that one was the average, and here's my total price. Right, so that is calculations. I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to delete my table again. And the last thing that I'm going to show you is actually how to sort certain data. So I'm actually going to just do one, and I'm going to say, I'm going to have different names here. Thomas, Peter, Susan, Kurt, and Leslie, as well as Gareth. Right, so this is not in alphabetical order. So what I can do is I can highlight this, and I can actually go here on top in the layout group to sort. And if I click on that, the sort dialog box comes up, and I can say, okay, I want, in this case, I only have one column, but if I had more, I could select the column that I want. Type, it's text, very important because it might be numbers, and then we want to rather sort it from large to small or small to large. And ascending means from A to Z, descending would mean from Z to A, and then I can apply to more than one column. So I would first to column A and then column B, and I can even add a third one. If I had a header row that said here name, then I would have to select header row. But in this case, I do not, so I say no header row. I simply press OK, and you can see that it automatically changed the order into an alphabetical order according to an ascending in an ascending order. Okay, so I can click on sort, and it will apply that to this. Right, so the last thing then is activity 7. And I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to make another short video on text and tables. But for now, if you can start with activity 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then you can watch the second video in a bit.